As NHL teams work their way through training camps, many teams have made roster cuts and made some tough decisions on where to send their top prospects for the upcoming 18-19 season. Many guys that we discussed on this channel who we anticipated may start the year in the NHL have either been assigned back to their junior clubs or sent down to their American Hockey League affiliate. So in today's video, we're going to discuss which prospects are going back to junior, to the minors, and which ones are looking like they're going to stick in the NHL. And that's coming up next. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. We review and discuss all 31 NHL teams, so if you're a huge hockey fan, consider subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. In the past few days, we've had a lot of top prospects that we've discussed quite a bit on this channel that have either been sent back to junior or will be starting the year at the American Hockey League level, and there's still some that appear to be sticking in the NHL. So I kind of want to give a breakdown here of which prospects you can't expect to see here at the beginning of the year that have been assigned back to junior or to the American League, and which ones are looking like they're going to stick and start the year at the NHL level. So first of all, I'm going to break down a lot of the guys who have been sent back to their junior squads. Let's get started here at the Vegas Golden Knights in center iceman Cody Glass. Now, he has been assigned back to the WHL's Portland Winterhawks. Heading into the training camp this year, I really thought there was a pretty good chance that we might see either Cody Glass or Nick Suzuki make the lineup here for the Vegas Golden Knights and insert some youth into that lineup here with some of their top picks from last year's NHL entry draft. But unfortunately, that's not going to be. Obviously, Nick Suzuki was traded to the Montreal Canadiens, and as we had previously discussed, he had already been sent back to his OHL team, and now Cody Glass as well has been reassigned back to the Western Hockey League for one more year of junior. Obviously, after this year, Cody Glass will be eligible to play in the American Hockey League, so depending on how things go in next year's training camp, Vegas can decide to either keep him on the main roster or send him to the AHL instead. But we will have to wait a little bit longer to see the debut of Cody Glass in a Vegas jersey in the NHL. The Detroit Red Wings have reassigned Joe Veleno, one of their first-round selections from the 2018 NHL Draft. That's the selection they got from the Vegas Golden Knights in the Thomas Tatar trade. He has been sent back to his team in Drummondville in the QMJHL. Joe Veleno did have a very impressive training camp, pretty good-looking games and some preseason here as well. Not a complete shocker that he was sent back. Obviously, they have a lot of other youth that probably rank a little bit ahead of him on their prospect depth chart here, like Zadina and Rasmussen and some other guys that are just a little bit more dynamic or been in the system a little longer. So this isn't too surprising here, but I know Veleno was really hoping to crack the roster and stick in the NHL. But one more year junior is certainly not going to do him any harm. He should be able to go back to Drummondville, hopefully have a dominating season, and really come back even stronger to the Red Wings training camp next year. Based on some of the roster moves we can likely expect with the Red Wings, I think the odds of him making the team next year, if everything progresses as planned here, are pretty solid. The Chicago Blackhawks have reassigned Adam Boqvist to the London Knights of the Ontario Hockey League. Now, obviously, prior to being drafted, Boqvist was playing over in Sweden, and there was some talk here as recently as the last 4 or 5 days, and we discussed it here on the channel in a previous video, saying how the Chicago Blackhawks were actually seriously considering keeping Boqvist at the NHL roster. I mean, even comments from Coach Joe Quenneville said he wouldn't rule it out, that Boqvist has had an impressive training camp, and it wasn't something they were, at that point at least, ready to decide or make a comment on. Since then, they have made their hard decision here to send him to go play for the Ontario Hockey League's London Knights. Obviously, London own his junior rights in Canada, and that is a tremendous team for him to be playing on. London has a terrific program, and it's turned out probably more NHL players in recent memory here than a lot of other teams. So that is an excellent place for him to go and develop. So certainly not a huge shock there. I was more surprised by the comments before from Quenneville saying he may stay, because after the draft, it was originally thought that Adam Boqvist, as dynamic as he looks like he could be, is probably about 2 years away from being ready. So obviously one more year of junior, we'll see how things go. Should be an opportunity for him to really grow and develop, come back to camp next year, and then at that point we'll see if he's ready for the NHL or if he needs another year still to grow and develop some more. The Nashville Predators have assigned Eeli Tolvanen to their AHL affiliate. This one's a little bit surprising. Obviously, Tolvanen had a terrific year last year playing around in many different teams. Obviously, had a terrific year in the KHL, played in the Olympics as well as the World Juniors. He had an absolutely terrific season, debuted with the Predators towards the end of last season, got into a few games, and really he did look a little bit lost. I didn't want to give that a whole lot of weight in my evaluation of him because he had such a long year. He played on many different teams. I'm sure he, at that point was probably getting tired. Obviously, had another league, another team to try to grow into and get accustomed to quickly. It was a big transition for him, I'm sure. But obviously through training camp, they feel that he's still not quite ready. Now, as we know, the Nashville Predators have a very deep hockey team. They have a very deep forward group. So getting him into the lineup to play some significant minutes was probably going to be a challenge nonetheless. But obviously a lot of people felt that he would probably get, he may have to start with a bottom six role to begin. based on what other options they have on their roster. If he's not going to get a lot of meaningful minutes and really not get a chance to play in the situations that are going to benefit him the most, maybe it is the best move to send him to the American Hockey League here. Doesn't mean he's going to be down there for the entire season. I would assume Tolvanen will definitely be their first call-up should they run into a situation with injuries or whatnot that they need another forward in the lineup. But it'll be interesting to see how Tolvanen can do at the American Hockey League based on how he's done in other leagues and how he's performed on the international stage. Theoretically, he should be able to do very well and dominate down there. So I would think that Tolvanen likely will be called up at some point here this year. But that so far is one of the more surprising demotions of all the prospects heading into NHL Training Camp so far. Now, another player that was a little bit surprising that he hasn't made the team so far was Michael McLeod of the New Jersey Devils. I really thought this would be the year he'd make the jump to the NHL level and play for New Jersey. Obviously, the Devils had a huge youth movement last year and inserted a lot of younger players into their lineup, and really we've seen a lot of them do rather well. I thought McLeod could be the next wave of that jumping in this year, but they have opted to assign him to their American Hockey League affiliate. So Michael McLeod will start the year at the American Hockey League level for the New Jersey Devils. We'll see how that goes. I'm not sure exactly what their plans are for him as far as calling him up or whatnot, but a little bit surprising that he won't be starting the year in the NHL. Now at this point, Michael McLeod's younger brother Ryan, who was a second-round pick this past year in 2018 of the Edmonton Oilers, is still in camp with the Oilers and is pushing for a roster spot. I still think that the odds of him making the team are slim just because of all the other players ahead of him based on contracts in the depth chart. But he's had an absolutely terrific training camp. He's looked really solid. So regardless of what happens with Ryan McLeod, I think the Oilers are very pleased with their draft choice of him in the 2018 draft here, especially where they got him so late. He was projected to be, by many, a first-round selection, and he slipped down, and they got him early in the second round. So great choice by the Oilers. He's got terrific speed. He's looked really good in camp, as had a lot of the other younger Oilers players, which we'll touch on here momentarily. But even though he's still in camp, I do think more than likely Ryan McLeod does go back to junior. But I guess time will tell here. The Oilers have not firmly made that decision as of the recording of this video. Now, sticking here with the Oilers right now, other guys that are still in camp and pushing for a spot include Kailer Yamamoto as well as Evan Bouchard. Now, I do think Yamamoto is pretty much a lock at this point. He's had a terrific preseason here for the Oilers. I think Yamamoto definitely makes the team. Bouchard certainly still a question mark, but things are looking pretty solid for him, especially with Sekera out. Now, earlier in the preseason when Sekera was out and Darnell Nurse were both unsigned, it seemed to be a much more likely possibility that he would stay. But even with Nurse coming back in, I guess we'll see here what the Oilers choose to do. I know Bouchard's had a pretty strong training camp based on their other defensemen and what he brings. He's got a pretty unique skill set compared to a lot of them. He would certainly jump to the forefront of being one of their most offensive and puck-moving defensemen on the D-Corps almost immediately. So the Oilers are, at this point, kind of leaning towards keeping him, but that decision, again, hasn't been firmly made. But things are looking promising for Bouchard to stay. In Yamamoto's case, I think it's all but locked up. The Toronto Maple Leafs have decided to send their 2018 first-round selection defenseman Rasmus Sandin to their American Hockey League affiliate. He was optional to go back to junior as well, but since he's coming from Europe, obviously European-born players don't have the same rules for playing in the American Hockey League, so he was eligible to go there, and they've decided to go that route instead, to have him play the pro game instead of the junior game, which will be good for his development. Obviously, as we know, the Marlies are a very strong team coming off a Calder Cup performance where they're league champions right now, and they still will have a fair bit of that team intact, especially on the back end. So obviously it's going to be a good opportunity for Sandin to jump in there and see what he can do and certainly learn and grow from some of the other guys that are developing down there as well. So not a big shock there. I didn't really suspect Sandin to make the roster right now. They've got a lot of other younger defensemen ahead of them as far as being ready to jump into the NHL and get an opportunity. I know the Leafs are still sorting out who those players are going to be. They have some hard decisions to make here in the coming days as training camp comes closer to ending. But obviously I didn't expect Sandin to be in that mix, at least not just yet. So he'll be playing for the Marlies this season. Now, there's certainly lots of other prospects that are looking like they're going to stick now. Obviously, some of them I didn't intend to talk about here because they were pretty much a given right away. Like, you know that Casey Milstead and Rasmus Dahlin in Buffalo are going to be playing. You know that Andrei Svechnikov in Carolina is going to make that team. Is looking really solid, like Philip Zadina is going to play as well. But a few other guys that were certainly question marks, for example, going into camp, would be Brady Tkachuk of the Ottawa Senators. At this point, though, it looks like it's pretty much a lock that Tkachuk not only makes the team, but has a top 6 spot. He's been playing a lot with Mark Stone, developed some good chemistry there. So I really think Tkachuk's going to be given every opportunity to be a top 6 forward right out of the gates. And as long as things go half decent here, then he'll likely remain with the club for the full year and see how things go. Obviously, with where everything is at with the Ottawa Senators, there's a lot of open spots. They obviously want to go with a younger group here, and Tkachuk is one of their brightest prospects for sure. Obviously, there's some other players as well that I hadn't mentioned that are pretty much a lock to make their teams that you know they're going to play. Just hasn't been officially confirmed, being like Elias Pettersson in Vancouver, Elias Anderson in Filipino and Rangers organization. Michael Rasmussen and Philip Zadina with Detroit. Those guys, I mean, I haven't really spent much time talking about them because it's been pretty much a lock the whole time here that they were going to make their club. Another player, though, that was a question mark going in and wasn't really clear was Jesperi Kotkaniemi of the Montreal Canadiens. And at this point, he certainly, I think, has exceeded expectations. And it's not clear yet, but the things are looking pretty likely that he's going to stay. He's been able to play the top line center role with the Habs in a few preseason games, and it's actually looked half decent here. It wouldn't be completely a shock to see him stay, at least for the 9-game tryout in the beginning of the year, and see how things go. Obviously, if they go that route instead, that might take the pressure off of Max Domi from playing center. They might be able to put maybe Domi on Kotkaniemi's wing, along with maybe Jonathan Drouin on the other side. Might actually give them a little bit more offensive output and be better for all players. So we'll see what happens with Kotkaniemi. Based on comments from the Habs and how he's looked in the preseason, at this point, I think his odds of staying and actually playing this year are pretty solid. So that is all the news and updates we have on many of the NHL's top prospects for today. If there's any other prospects you'd like an update on or haven't heard what the plan is for their 18-19 season, certainly leave a comment down below, and I will let you know once I find out where those players are going to be playing for the coming season. If you're new to the channel here, I hope you consider subscribing. We cover all 31 NHL teams, and there is plenty of content here for all hockey fans to enjoy. So if you're new, hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button as well. I'd really appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you very much for watching, everybody. We will catch you next time.